When the projects were done, particularly with Rupert, there was still a cultural belief that time should be so used, that creativity must be directed and disciplined to fall into the proper time slots. In other words, to some extent or another, he tried to use an assembly line kind of time for your creative productivity. This may work when manuscripts are being typed and so much physical labor is involved, but overall, you are using the wrong approach to time, particularly for any creative artists. This again applies particularly to Rupert, though you are not exonerated in that regard. There is much material here that I will give you because it is important that you understand the different ways of relating to reality and how those ways create the experienced events. You have not really, either of you, been ready to drastically alter your orientations, but you are approaching that threshold. As Rupert's notes also mention, the magical approach means that you actually change your methods of dealing with problems, achieving goals, and satisfying means. You change over to the methods of the natural person. They are indeed then a part of your private experience. They are not esoteric methods, but you must be convinced that they are natural methods by which man is meant to handle his problems and approach his challenges. I use the word methods because you understand it, but actually we are speaking about an approach to life, a magical or natural approach to life that is man's version of the animal's natural instinctive behavior in the universe. That approach does indeed fly in direct contradiction to the learned methods you have been taught. You have held on to those methods to varying degrees since, after all, it seems that the world shares them. They are understood ways of dealing with events. Once again, however, with the experience of the last few days, you are both astonished by the magical ease by which work, real work, can be accomplished. Events perceived out of place and time and so forth. All of that can be transferred to other areas of your lives, and in particular to Rupert's physical difficulties. I do understand your joint concern, and in holding the session, I know you want specific answers, which I always give to the best of my ability. It certainly seems that the best way to get specific answers is to ask specific questions. And the rational mind thinks first of all of something like a list of questions. In that regard, Rupert's response before such a session is natural and, to an extent, magical, because he knows that no matter what he has been taught, he must to some degree forget the questions and the mood that accompanies them with one level of his consciousness in order to create the proper kind of atmosphere at another level of consciousness, an atmosphere that allows the answers to come through even though they may be presented in a different way than expected by the rational mind. What we will be discussing for several sessions with your permission jointly, and I hope with your joint enthusiasm, will be the magical approach to reality and to your private lives specifically, in order to create that kind of atmosphere in which the answers become experienced. Trying to fit the great thrust of creativity into assembly line time is in itself bound to lead to conflicts, dissatisfactions, and frustrations. If the proper creative and magical orientation is kept primarily in the mind, other things will fall into place. You do not say to the creative self, "Now it is 7:30. People are at their assembly lines. I am at my desk. Produce." Assembly line time does not really value time, only as time can be used for definite, prescribed purposes. In that framework, to enjoy time becomes a weakness or a vice, and both of you, to some extent, have so considered time. With creative people, strongly gifted as in your cases, the natural person is very prominent, no matter what you do. It therefore strongly resents any basically meaningless constraints placed about its experience. It knows, for example, how to enjoy each day, how to collect creative insights from each and every encounter, how to enrich itself physically through household chores or other activities. It dislikes being told that it must work, thus and so at command of unreasonable restraints. The natural person is anything but irrational. It gathers all of experience together and transforms it. So many of your problems have been caused by applying the wrong kind of orientation to your lives and activities. I say wrong meaning no moral judgment, but the application of one method to a pursuit that cannot be adequately expressed in such a fashion. The assembly line time and the beliefs that go along with it have given you many benefits as a society, but it should not be forgotten that the entire framework was initially set up to cut down on impulses, creative thought, or any activities that will lead to anything but the mindless repetition of one act after another. In other words, that entire framework is meant to give you a standardized, mass-produced version of reality. None of its concepts can rationally be applied to creative endeavors. The orientation that gives you the creative achievement lies in the opposite direction. Creativity itself has its own built-in discipline, the kind that, for example, in a dream can rummage through the days of the future to find precisely the data required to make a specific point. All of this material applies to Rupert's condition, and an understanding of it will create the climate in which beneficial results can appear. This marks the end of Seth Speaks, the magical approach. This is session 1 in our part 2. Let's talk about it. So here Seth is highlighting the conflict between the cultural expectation of regimented assembly line time and the natural, intuitive approach to creativity. Seth emphasizes that for true creative expression, one must abandon strict time constraints and embrace a more fluid, instinctual method. This shift in mindset, referred to as the magical approach, aligns with the natural human instinct, allowing creativity to flourish and addressing personal challenges more effectively. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, sharing with a friend, and of course, subscribing for more. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss any videos. What did you think about this particular passage? Please leave it in the comments below. Stay tuned for the quiz that will accompany this video. And as always, I am Tony Victory, a wolf uncaged. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you.